Fantasy draft's approaching in the next few weeks. Here's a few wide receivers I think are going to be breakouts this season. The first wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. of the Arizona Cardinals. And Marvin Harrison, I know he's going mid-second round in most fantasy drafts, and I think he could be a top wide receiver only in his rookie year entering the season. He's going to Arizona where their offensive scheme is getting the football down the field and making big plays. We know Kyler Murray, he tries to extend the play and has a big arm. And not to get a big-time wideout coming out of college like Marvin Harrison Jr., where it's a great landing spot. And if he's anywhere near as good as his father was, he's going to be an all-timer, is Marvin Harrison. So right now, he's going around 16th, 17th overall in most fantasy drafts. He's a big-time playmaker. And in his rookie season, it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see something from 1,000 to 1,200 yards with 7 or 8 touchdowns for Marvin Harrison. Pretty much him and Trey McBride, the only legit options on this offense in Arizona. I know the ADP is high for Marvin Harrison, but when you look at it, would you rather have his upside or a veteran wide receiver that you know is going in that second, third round range, but you just know what he's going to give you? So right now, Marvin Harrison, even at a high price in his first season, I believe he's going to be a breakout wide receiver this year, and he's in a perfect system in Arizona where they look to get that football down the field and look to make explosive plays instead of just nickel and diming up and down the field. The next wide receiver, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. Drake London, a couple years ago, he had a decent season, but last year was just a train wreck overall for this Atlanta Falcon team, where obviously Arthur Smith was the head coach, Desmond Ridder, where just nothing was going right for this Atlanta Falcon team. Last season, he still had 905 receiving yards and 69 catches, but only the 2 touchdowns. Now, you got a legit quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who obviously, I know he's not a big-time quarterback in prime time. I know he don't have a great playoff record as Cousins, but regular season, most times than not, he's up there amongst the league leaders in passing yards, and he knows how to get the football to his number one targets, even going back to his Washington Commander days. So Drake London, he's going about mid-second, early third round in fantasy drafts. I think he's a perfect number 2 wide receiver for fantasy owners. So let's say you start off with a St. Brown and then you go with a running back, or even if you take a Drake London earlier towards that end of the second round, I believe his number 2 wideout for owners, he's good. And I think he's going to have a breakout season. I wouldn't be surprised if he has anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 yard ranges, Drake London. Last season, a lot of ball games, he just didn't show up and do much. But like I said, when you had a bad coach and a bad quarterback, how much can a wide receiver really do if the quarterback can't be accurate and get the football down the field? Because we know London a few years ago coming out in the NFL draft, he was a highly touted prospect, and now playing with a legit quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who now knows how to get the football to his number 1 target. He's definitely a wideout that I believe could break out the season. Next receiver, another rookie in this video, Malik Neighbors of the New York Giants. So the Giants, they went all in, and they were big on Neighbors, and I would take Saquon Barkley gone in free agency and going, obviously, to the Philadelphia Eagles division rival. He's the number 1 target and offensive weapon on this offense. Pretty much Devin Singletary, Malik Neighbors, Daniel Bellinger, Jalen Hyatt, Wendell Robinson is this New York Giant offense. And not flashy. Daniel Jones, I know he was horrible last season before he went down with the knee injury, but Malik Neighbors, he's one of the top prospects at the wide receiver position to come out in college football in the last decade, and the reports have been well about Neighbors, that he's going out there, nice plays, and he's uncoverable right now. So I know it's training camp. I know it's versus his defense where he's going to have to verse all types of defense, but Neighbors, he's got the upside, and he's going to be on a team that most likely is going to be trailing early and often, and they're going to pepper him with targets. So Malik Neighbors, definitely a wide receiver that could break out this season, and his draft positions going around that late 5th to 7th round range, and I believe is a number 2 receiver or a third flex option. I believe Neighbors is a good breakout candidate and a wideout you're going to want on some of your teams. Next wide receiver, Calvin Ridley of the Tennessee Titans. So after suspended for a year and coming back last season was Ridley with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where just nothing went right in terms of putting up fantasy numbers. He had a couple decent games here and there, Ridley, but I believe he left some yards on the table and some fantasy points. And now with DeAndre Hopkins out early in the season and no timetable for his return, Ridley's value goes up even more. And he's going in that 7th, 8th round range as Ridley. Says a number 2 to flex option is why I believe he could be good for fantasy owners. And last season, like I said, there were games he came out and had big games and games he didn't do much. was Ridley. 76 catches, 1,016 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. So the touchdown saved Ridley for the most part. But like I said, he had a couple games where they were big ones, and then there were weeks he only scored 7-8 fantasy points in PPR leagues. But this season, he's with a big quarterback in Will Levis. Trevor Lawrence is a solid quarterback, but last year, a lot of drop passes and just bad turnovers and not much of driving the football down the field for Lawrence. I think with Will Levis and now with DeAndre Hopkins out till who knows when, I think Calvin Ridley could have a bounce-back season. Like I said, he was suspended for a year, so in his first year back, he had to get his legs on the rim and play up to speed, and sometimes it takes a while. So now signing a big contract in the offseason in Tennessee, I believe Calvin Ridley wants to go out there and prove that he could live up to the contract and go make plays. And like I said, Will Levis does have a big arm, and I think a Ridley breakout is definitely a possibility because I was big on him going into last season. I know he had the bad year, but I believe this year at a decent draft range could be a breakout candidate in the fifth and final wide receiver. I believe that could break out. It's going to another rookie, Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs. Xavier Worthy, first preseason game, he played a ton of snaps. Hollywood Brown, he got hurt in that one, out 4 to 6 weeks with the shoulder injury. So at best, Brown will be back week 2, week 3 for this Kansas City Chiefs team. And we know throughout his career, Brown, he's been an injured wide receiver more often than not. So Worthy, a lot of hype coming in. He could play that Tyreek Hill type of role. I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill by any means, but with his speed, size, and the way he runs routes and can burn a secondary, obviously Patrick Mahomes could play backyard football with Worthy and just tell him go deep and I'll get that football there. And that's exactly what I think could happen. So Rashee Rice, I thought he would get suspended, but it looks likely that he's not, unless last minute before the season he gets suspended. But either way, Worthy with the Hollywood Brown injury is going to be a starting wide receiver for this Kansas City Chiefs team. This Scanlon, he's not there anymore on the roster. Sky Moore, he hasn't shown much. He's a backup. That's not really going to see the field. Justin Watson as well for this Kansas City Chiefs team. So Xavier Worthy, he's going to be penciled in as that number 2 wide receiver. Great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes is going to make things easier for Worthy. And like I said, with his speed, he could pay big dividends for fantasy owners. So right now, he's going in about that 8th to 10th round range. And he's even a wide receiver that I would have up there in the top 30 possibly this season, playing with Patrick Mahomes and with his speed. So that's a few wide receivers that I think are going to break out entering the 2024 season and fantasy drafts within the next few weeks.